Welcome to day 14, and today we are talking about the major arcanas. So it's taken this long for us to really start to dive into the practicalities of how a tarot deck is set out, and that's because I didn't want to start with that because it's a bit dry and a bit boring, and actually I think it's really fun to just do all the connecting and the magic and the intuitive stuff first. But now we can start to explore a little bit more about the details of the card, bearing in mind that my approach is that your intuitive understanding of each card should be informed from your own life, your own experiences, and getting to know them on your own terms. But let's talk about how a deck is set out. So there's 78 cards in a deck, and we begin with the major arcana. So we have the major arcana, then we have the minor arcana. The minor arcana are made up of cups, wands, swords, and pentacles, and we will come to those in a few days. But first, we're going to talk about the majors. The majors are the ones that most people will have heard of. So they're like the Death card, the Hanged Man card, the Star card, Judgment, the Empress, the High Priestess. There's so many. The Moon, the Tower, the Chariot, Strength. They're the cards that everybody kind of, even if they don't really know a lot about tarot, that we are familiar with. The Death card. One of my favourite cards, actually. But yes, so they're the cards also that I think put people off tarot because they've been linked with kind of, I don't know, the supernatural, demonic and devilish influences, which have never risen in my practice. And the thing I would say about the major arcana, and that is so important for us to remember, is that they are the archetypes of human life. Okay, so when we say archetypes, what do we mean? We mean the big themes of what it is to live on this planet and to be human. So every single one of those cards is something that you can relate to on one level or another. So your task for today is to get your major archetypes, your major arcana cards, and find them all within the deck and bring them out and look at them. And just begin to gently associate them with your own life. Because some of them you might not be that familiar with. It might be that you've just not reached that stage yet of your life, or that you need a few more experiences and then you'll begin to understand them. But you might be able to perhaps associate them with other people you have known, people you've experienced, people who have been in your life. But each and every one of them exists within us. So start out, say, with the Fool. The Fool is the first card of the tarot deck, the first major arcana card. And so it really reflects and speaks to our journey as we set out as young people. Well, you can be the Fool at any age, but as we set out into an understanding, into taking risks, into broaching life, into doing something new, into taking a risk, taking a chance, kind of a carefree attitude. So it's that amazing archetype of evolution and growth and moving forward despite risk. And as you go on to look through something like, I don't know, a bit further on, we've got the Empress. So for many of you, you may be mothers. Even if you're not, it really doesn't matter. What are you birthing? What are you bringing into life? What have you brought into life? How have you grown and expanded and nurtured your own life, your own creations, businesses, work? You can apply the Empress to lots of cards. So I think in a more traditional, old-fashioned way, we would be looking at the Empress as this card relates to motherhood. No, what if you're a guy? Then it relates to you mothering your life into existence, but not necessarily in the kind of the way we happen to look at motherhood now. We're talking about ancient, archaic ways of understanding motherhood as a fertile, goddess-given right that everybody gets to move through, no matter what their gender or their agenda. We all get to experience all of these. So we can be the Emperor, we can be the Magician, we can be the Hermit, and we can be Death. Death, scary card for some people, and I used to find it quite scary, to be honest. But it will come up. It's come up for me dozens and dozens of times. I'm still here, probably hundreds of times. I'm still here, but there are always deaths. There are always endings. And every ending leads to a new beginning. So if we're looking at it simply like that, we can begin to understand the messages of each and every one of these major cards. So I want you to look at all your majors, lay them out in front of you in nice little neat lines, and just gaze upon each one. Maybe make a note. So have your journal handy and kind of the Fool. What comes to mind when you look at the Fool? How have you ever been the Fool? For better or for worse, or for something a bit more in between? How have you been the Empress? How have you been judgment or justice? And some of the cards, again, like things like that, judgment and justice, are big concepts. You might need to sit with them. Judgment, I've been working with the cards 30 years, and I only feel like in the past couple of years I've really got a good grip on that card. So if there's any that really kind of escape you or elude you, don't worry. Trust me, they will come round to meet you at some point. And if you continue working with tarot, you will be greeted and meted with every single one of those cards at some point. And at that point, you'll really kind of improve your understanding of it. But just have a look at the cards, the major cards today. Have a look at which ones feel good to you, which ones feel familiar, which ones feel a little bit like maybe they belong to someone else, but maybe you can see aspects of them within you. Yeah? So source yourself first. If you really feel like you cannot find that card anywhere within your life or your experiences or your knowings, just have a think. Well, okay, so the Hermit, I don't get the Hermit maybe, but perhaps I had a teacher who it reminds me of, or it reminds me of my dad or my mom, or kind of somebody I once knew once upon a time who had a kind of gnarled wisdom but was a little bit introverted. There's loads of ways to look at the cards, but we're really going to bring it deeply inwards today. So have a little look at your major arcanas today. Familiarize yourself via your life, your experiences, and your knowings. And then tomorrow I'm going to chop them up, and we're going to start looking more specifically at each individual cards, kind of putting some words, some feelings to them. And then I want you to take them away and catalyze them into your own understanding. So whatever I tell you, take it as a jumping off point, and then begin to apply your own knowledge, which is why today you are starting with your knowledge rather than mine. So go lay them out, a couple of words for each one in your journal. Perhaps come talk to us in the comments about what you find in general. Do you see a story when you move from the Fool all the way through to the World? Can you see a story playing out like on a storyboard as you go through each and every one of those cards? And how do you fit in that story? How has your life adhered to that story? Okay, it's fun, it's fab, and I'll be back tomorrow and we'll start exploring the major arcana even more deeply.